The spring of 1953 brought with it an unprecedented rash of tornadoes. Still, Americans felt safer from the ravages of the weather now that they had warnings. Radar scopes used during World War II to track enemy planes were now tracking the clouds. Forecasters could issue thunderstorm warnings and make a stab at predicting tornadoes. With advance notice, people had more time to take cover, and tornado deaths were soon cut in half. While tornadoes were touching down in Nebraska and Iowa on June 7th, people in Flint, Michigan were enjoying a warm late spring day. The city was supercharged with the post-war boom. Day and night, workers churned out cars and parts. The 50 millionth GM car had rolled off the assembly line the year before. On June 8, 1953, everything seemed normal. Flint resident Harry Cooper had been dying to see the movie Invasion USA. After trying to contact his girlfriend, he went to the drive-in alone.
It started to get dusk. The car was sitting on an angle, and I looked back through the back side window, off over into the sun was setting. I saw this V-shape hanging down the sky. I noticed cars were leaving, and it was very, very still. There was no breeze at all. The air was very heavy, and all of a sudden, I got to get out of here. And I took the speaker that I had hanging on the window, and I didn't even put it back in the rack. I threw it in the rack. All of a sudden, there was panic in me, and I was scared.
Harry had seen the formation of a killer. A few blocks away in the working-class neighborhood of Coldwater Road, Dorothy Robinson was cleaning up from dinner.
The clouds looked really ominous. They were just rolling around like in all directions, and it was a muddy, coppery look. My husband and I were looking out the front door, watching the clouds. Suddenly, I heard this noise that sounded like jet planes flying over the house. He said, "It's not planes, it's a tornado coming." And I knew with a sound like that was going to be horrible.
Dorothy and her two oldest daughters hid under a bed. Her husband and youngest daughter ran for the shelter of a closet.
Suddenly, there was this noise that sounded like a shot, and it was the windows popping out, and right after that, I could feel the house sliding off the foundation. I remember being up in the air. I don't know how high, but things were coming at me from all directions, and then I was knocked out.
Down the street, Harry Cooper had barely escaped from the traffic jam at the drive-in when the full force of the storm hit.
Something, a gust of something, a force, didn't pick my car up. It just pushed it sideways. And I actually pushed my foot against the floorboard and grabbed the steering wheel and was standing up trying to pull my car back over in the right-hand lane. That funnel cloud was closer to me than I thought. I didn't know it was a funnel cloud. It was a greenish black. I never forget that.
Harry raced home, which was just a few blocks away. When he arrived, the entire neighborhood was gone.
My dad was laying on his back, and I said, "Dad," he said, "get me out of here, get me to the hospital." And somebody had thrown a tablecloth over his midsection, and I lifted it up and shined the light down, and I went, "Oh my God." And you could see all his insides. And I said, "We'll get you out of here, Dad."
Harry rushed his father to the hospital. A few blocks away, Dorothy Robinson was searching for her family, too.
When I came to, I was sitting in the middle of a muddy road. The first one I came to was my youngest daughter, Barbara, and she was lying on her side, and I was hoping she was just unconscious, but it turned out otherwise. I came to my husband, and I knew he wasn't going to make it because the blood was gushing from his nose and mouth, but he was still moaning. And I called his name, but I don't think he heard me.
Her husband and her daughter were dead. Dorothy herself was badly hurt from the flying debris.
There wasn't a house anywhere. It was all just rubble. And there was small fires burning off in a distance. And the water pipes where they were broken off, the water was gushing up, and it was so eerie.
She searched through the remains of her home to find her other two daughters. They were still alive. All three of them needed a doctor.
We finally got inside the hospital, and it was like an assembly line. The doctors taking care of all the injured, and they couldn't give us any chloroform or anything because there wasn't time, or they didn't have enough.
The hunt for other victims continued into the night.
Some troopers come through with flares, and they said, light flares and check basements. And we lit our flares. It wasn't 2 minutes, and somebody else come running through. They put the flares out. There's gas mains leaking in here. So I took my flare and stuck it down in the mud, put it out. And I didn't walk probably 6 to 8 feet, and I stepped right on top of one of them there. Gas mains hit me right in the face. And I walked a little ways, and I kind of got nauseous, you know. And then I thought, man, if I'd have had that, still had that flare in my hand, what would have happened? You know, bye-bye, Harry.
The hospital strained to care for the injured and dying. Harry's father was out of surgery.
All he was left of his signs of life was, you know, pulse in his neck. I just figured he was suffering, but I guess maybe he wasn't. And I remember the last thing I said to him was, Dad, let go. And it wasn't just a few seconds, and they weren't shut off all the stuff off, and he was still.
Harry Cooper lost his father, while Dorothy Robinson and her two daughters recovered.
A little kid who lived through the event for nights after the tornado went through continued to ask his parents, is the sky going to scream at me again tonight?
115 people were dead.